Hello and welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be going through Chapter 3, Section 2.4. In today's lesson, we're going to be learning a little bit about the Articles of Confederation, and then we'll be taking a bit more of a deep dive into the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And our main idea for this section is that after the Revolution, Americans created a government based on a balance of power and the rights of the people. So from 1781 to 1789, the United States was governed by the Articles of Confederation. However, this plan did not effectively address the balance between state and federal powers. The new country was not as united as it needed to be. So in 1789, American leaders met to begin writing a constitution, or a document that organizes a government and states its powers. Having just fought for and won independence from Britain, Americans wanted their constitution to reflect that spirit of independence. The document needed to grant certain freedoms to individuals and also limit government control. Different concerns of northern and southern states also had to be addressed. So the Constitution of the United States was approved in 1789, and it became a model for other countries. It established a government based on 5 principles. These 5 principles are separation of powers, which means that government power is divided between 3 separate but equal branches. It's the checks and balances. Each branch partly needs another branch to do its work. Federalism, the idea that specific powers are granted to the central government and then to state governments. Limited government, which is the concept that individual rights and powers of state governments limit the United States government. And finally, democracy, the idea that government is based on the rights and equality of every citizen. So the federal government consists of 3 branches. The 3 branches are first the legislature, which is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives has a differing number of members based on the population of each state. The Senate has 100 members in it, 2 from each of the 50 states. And these branches are responsible for making up our laws and passing things like budgets, and also declaring war. The executive branch is the second branch of government. This is led by the president and vice president, and it's kind of the enforcing branch of the government. So whereas the legislature makes the laws, the executive branch enforces those laws. The president is also in charge of all of the military and things like that. The executive branch, like I said, it enforces the laws and it makes sure that our country is fully protected. And then finally, you have the judicial branch. This is the group that determines whether or not laws are constitutional. So the highest court in the land is the U.S. Supreme Court, which is made up of 1 chief justice, and then other associate judges. Right now, we have 9 members of the Supreme Court, so 1 chief judge and 8 associate justices. And then we have other types of courts as well. There are appellate courts, there are state courts, municipal courts, all kinds of different things that are all under the federal government, or all under the U.S. Supreme Court. So the court's decisions are used as precedent for every other decision made in other courts. So to kind of summarize that, legislature makes the laws, executive enforces the laws, and then the judicial branch rules on whether or not a law is constitutional when you're looking at legal, like the laws and things. There are other ways that each branch also checks the other branches and balances them out, like we talked about with the checks and balances. So one reason that the United States Constitution has lasted for so many years is that it can be changed, which makes it a living document. It allows for amendments, which are formal changes to a law. In fact, most of the founding fathers expected that the Constitution would undergo many amendments. They expected that the Constitution would change and evolve as the population of the United States, and that a general overall world view also changed and evolved. So the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution are made up of the Bill of Rights. These are arguably some of the most important rights that we have as Americans, although the other amendments are also important as well. So they do guarantee, as it says, 10 amendments that guarantee us certain rights and freedoms. So those rights and freedoms are, first, the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. And the full amendment of this one actually says that Congress shall make no law about any of these things. So they can't make a law about restricting freedom of religion. They can't say everyone has to be a certain religion. Speech, meaning you cannot speak out against the federal government specifically, or any government. Press, they cannot control what people write in newspapers or say on the news, or things that is true or that is opinion based. Assembly, which means people gathering together. They can't stop people gathering. However, they can say, like, you have to have a permit to protest or something like that in some situations. And petition, a petition is a document or an idea for a law or something that you have to get a certain number of signatures on. And if it gets that number of signatures, then it can move on and become an actual law. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. This is technically it was written for a well-armed militia, but it also guarantees that people have the right to own firearms, is what that one means. The next one, freedom from quartering of troops. This means that the United States Army or the National Guard or whomever cannot come and say, hey, I need your house, and stay there, which is something that like British troops were able to do. They were able to basically either kick people out of their house or say, we need to stay here, and kind of force their way in and help themselves, like their food and beds and everything like that. The next one is freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. This means that no one can just come in and start, like law enforcement, I should say, can't come in and just start taking things away or searching without probable cause for things. The next one is freedom from self-incrimination and right to due process. Self-incrimination means that if you are part of a legal battle or something, or if the government wants you to testify against someone else, you don't have to answer questions that are going to make you that show that you broke the law or something like that. So, for example, if you were speeding and you witnessed a crime or something happened, so you were testifying, and the prosecuting attorney said, hey, were you speeding? You wouldn't have to answer that, because that's technically self-incrimination. And then right to due process means that there are certain steps that people have to follow. The government, and not government necessarily, but like the attorneys, the justice system has to follow in order to prosecute someone. The next one is right to a speedy trial and to confront accusers. This means that a speedy trial means different things based on different scenarios, like where you are and whatnot. But basically, you have the right to not be sitting in jail or something forever before you even tried. And to confront accusers means that if someone said you did something, you have the right to ask them questions, whether yourself or usually it's through an attorney. The next one is right to a trial by jury. So this is why, if you've ever heard someone talk about jury duty, that's what this is all about. You have the right to be judged by, specifically, it's a jury of your peers. So people, normal people, can determine whether you were guilty or whether you were innocent. The next one is freedom from cruel and unusual punishment. This one's kind of self-explanatory, but basically it also goes to, like, if you get a speeding ticket, you aren't going to be put in jail for like a bunch of years or something like that, or have to pay like $1 million fine if all you did was speed. That type of a thing. Number 9 is protection of rights not named in the Constitution. So this is kind of a catch-all that says, like, hey, we know that we didn't get all of these things, but people still have certain rights that you have to be aware of and that they are guaranteed. And the last one is that powers that were not given to the federal government are given to the states and the people. So this is something that especially the southern states really wanted to ensure. They wanted to make sure that the federal government didn't become too powerful. So if in the Constitution a power was not given to the federal government, it was assumed that it was the power of these states. All right, so 3 things to remember from this section. The Articles of Confederation were our first attempt at some sort of a constitution, but they were unsuccessful. They didn't unite the country like they needed to. The second thing to remember is the Constitution was written with the intention to change and evolve. And then the last thing to remember is that the Bill of Rights guarantees some of the most important rights and freedoms to Americans. I will say I don't expect you guys to like remember every single one of the 10 rights of the Bill of Rights, but I do need you to know that it does guarantee certain rights and freedoms to all Americans. All right, guys. Thank you guys for listening. Go ahead and check back in Canvas and see what your next job is, and I will see you guys later. Bye.